So how do we go from a starting point through the development to a finished piece of artwork? Sometimes this can be really daunting and people don't know where to start and they don't know how to develop an idea. So in this tutorial, I'm going to take you through my whole process from a starting point of an idea to a finished canvas. So this is one of the longest tutorials I've ever done, and I'm just going to see how it pans out. How are you? Welcome to Friday Art with me, Kate Field. I'm an artist, teacher and a speaker, and passionate about helping you to develop your artwork and to encourage you to just pick up that pencil or get that box of paints out of the cupboard that's been there for ages and you haven't done anything with it. I really hope you enjoy this tutorial. Thank you so much for your lovely comments. A huge welcome if you're new. That's really lovely. You've come to a very friendly place, and I really hope you enjoy this tutorial. I'm so looking forward to this tutorial. We are going to be using some acrylic paints. I think I'm going to be using some warm colours for this one. You obviously can use whatever colour you like. Pencil and a collection of photos. Some I've taken from magazines, some are my own, of the flowers that are around where I live. And what we're going to do is to take part of these images and turn them into a sort of an abstracted image. So our flowers are our starting point. And this is really important that we have something to kind of get us going, because I think that can be a little bit intimidating. Now, I am very much drawn to these lovely daisy-like flowers. If you saw my tutorial earlier this week in Doodle Club, I did some observational studies of these, and it's from that I got the idea of doing this tutorial. So I'm just going to flip back to my previous lesson. So I was doing just sort of some observational studies, some doodles, playing around with some shapes, and then I thought, how might I take this a little bit further? And again, this is how I use my sketchbook. And what we're going to do is going to go through my process of taking an idea. So sometimes I use my viewfinder and sort of move it about and see what looks interesting, like, you know, that kind of idea. And other times I will tear up shapes and put them together, and that's kind of what we're going to do on these two pages. So get your resources together and let's have a bit of a play. Right, I'm just going to tear some of these images and see what happens. So if you haven't got your own photos, then get a magazine. Sort of garden magazines are really good for this sort of thing. And I'm just going to start to put together. So it's like a collage, really. Just sort of thinking what might work, and just looking at the shapes, some of the shapes that I really like, and just being inspired by these flowers and seeing what happens. And again, your sketchbook is a place to play. I can't emphasize this enough, really. We don't allow ourselves to play. And quite often, if we'd had a teacher at school who perhaps was a bit negative or didn't really support you in your artistic journey, shall we say, this can have a seriously detrimental effect on how you perceive yourself as an artist. So I will say to you, as I say to all of the people who come into my real live art classes, as soon as you walk in through the door into my studio, you are an artist. And that's what I'm going to say to you too. So playing around with these sorts of ideas. Now, I'm liking this as well. I like this kind of texture and these. And if you kind of like zoom in on something like that, for example, you can't see what it is anymore. And this is the idea and the whole concept of abstraction, is that we are taking something from real life and then expanding it, distorting it in such a way that it no longer becomes recognisable. So on this page, I've made a collage, sort of torn up bits of the flower images. And now I'm just sort of looking at some interesting bits that I could just pick out and turn into something else. So this is the development stage. So we're not anywhere near what we're going to put onto a canvas or anything like that. We're just playing around with looking at something that's interesting. Now, I quite like this. So on this page, just move that across. What I'm going to do is to just, so this is just a little viewfinder, just made out of a bit of cardboard with a hole cut in it. Sort of take that idea there, and I'm going to just roughly reproduce it in a just sort of a little sketch. Just sort of looking at the shapes. Now, when we're doing abstraction from real life, it's actually really quite difficult to disassociate from what is actually there. So I know that this is a daisy-like flower, and that is influencing how I'm drawing it. So I'm going to try and break away from that a little bit as we get into the deeper ideas. There, and some bits I think, yeah, that's going to work and really like that. Others I think, no, maybe not. But I'm quite liking these sort of, well, I know that they're petals. But I'm just going to sort of break the idea over the next couple of experiments. So that's kind of my shape. I'm going to do a few more. So I'm going to, let's take that idea, let's pop that one there, see where we go. So I've got that line, and obviously you can turn it all round to however you want. So that's quite interesting. So I've got that bit there. I'm doing this very, very quickly. You could also use tracing paper if you wanted to. Quite often get my students to use tracing paper to put down a very quick idea, so they're not worrying about, you know, the whole drawing thing. So I'm just making that actually bigger than it is, and then I'm just going to pop that bit there. Quite liking that actually as an image. And then let's just do one down here. Move your viewfinder around and just sort of have a look at it. It's that bit going up there. I've got a weird bit coming here. Just putting these shapes in and seeing what I like. Actually quite liking that. Quite liking that one. And I'll do another one down here as well. So again, this is my playing around with an idea bit. And as always, I encourage you to play, as I do every single lesson. And from your wonderful comments. I'm thinking you're liking those. Thank you so much for taking time to comment. It makes a huge difference. I'm sort of trying to grow this channel, trying to give you what you want and what you think is helpful. So your comments are invaluable. Thank you so much. Put that idea there. I think I might just put another little one here as well. Let's do that across. Let's sort of take, yeah, that's quite an interesting one as well, isn't it? That's there. This is where I've just cut out a shape, put that bit in there. Like that. So I've got these 5 ideas. I'm going to put a little bit of colour on them. I'm just going to use colouring pencil just to get an idea of what might work. So I put some colour on the first one, and I'm just going to do a little bit on here. I'm playing around with colours. I know initially I thought I am going to stick to the sort of warm colours, and I might still do that. But in these experimental pieces, I'm trying out ideas, and I'm going to be using different colours because I might change my mind. This is why it is just so important that we play and try out different ideas in our sketchbooks, and we have this idea of developing, and it's developing an idea can be really quite challenging for a lot of people, and it's so important. It's so important. We may well go back to our original idea. That might happen. But the journey that we go on is invaluable when we start to put other ideas, other elements in. I'm just using block colours, doing a little bit of tone on this one. Just kind of seeing what I like, what's sort of appealing to me. I'm not taking too much time because I just want to see my colour combinations and different mark making. I'll do some different mark making on them as well. Let's just put that one in there, I think. Now, I always say with sketchbooks, you know, nobody sees your sketchbook unless you want to show it off. So this is your place to make mistakes, to see what happens if you just add a bit of blue in one corner. Yeah, that kind of thing. Just put in that in there. I am quite liking this shape of this one. I think that's got some potential. But I'm now going to work on this one because I think this is more abstract. So I'm just going to put some block colour down very, very roughly. Just of identifying some of these shapes. I might make this actually more monochrome. With the blues. This is quite interesting. And then perhaps do some mark making in some of the shapes, seeing what happens when I do that. it changes the dynamic completely, which is kind of what I wanted to do with that one. Might come back and develop that one a little bit more. Let's now move on to, just make sure you can see that one, this one. And I'm going to go back to my warm colours. Like this. Just keep this, again, very, very loose lead, very quick ideas, perhaps some scribbly marks in these spaces. This sort of yellow ochre colour I'm quite liking at the moment. I've been using it quite a bit in some of my pieces. Just seeing what happens when I put that there. Like that one. And now this one I think I'm going to do in a completely different colour. I'm going to go into greens. Because again, this is quite an abstract shape already. I'm just going to put in some of these. Like that. So you could just try out different colours. This is what's so nice about working on a sort of like in a tiny little space, because you can try things out really quickly. Let's do that. So that when you go into paint, you're not wasting any paint, because you know what you're going to do. And that's the whole point of developing these ideas. So this is like the second step in a development. Let's just add a bit of yellow into that. The thing with abstract art is that we can make our own interpretations. You know, I've said this many times, and it's so true. As human beings, we like to create narratives and stories, and because we need to make sense of the world around us. And the early abstract artists were really interested in sort of breaking the norm. So things weren't as obvious, and sometimes they weren't obvious at all, and that meant that the viewer had to work a little bit harder. I'm just popping in a bit of tone in this space, and I'm liking that as well. So what I'm going to do next is to take one of these ideas, or a part of one of these ideas, and develop it further before going on to paint. So I thought I'd do a little bit more work on these ones, just to see if I can make up my mind which one I'm going to do, and see if I can think about how I'm going to develop it and what sort of marks I'm going to make, what sort of composition I'm going to use. And so I just sort of play around with putting some marks in some of these spaces. This still has a very organic feel about it, which I like. I think that works. I think it works well. Yeah, I am quite drawn to this. Let's just sort of put in a few. Quite liking that, but I also am quite drawn to this one, although it has now got a bit of a landscape feel about it, which was unintentional, which is what happens. But again, I do like it. With these ideas, as with your ideas, you might just leave it for a while, maybe a few months, and then come back to an idea that you had where you think, ah, yes, I'm going to do something with that idea. And I do that a lot. I come back to an idea that I had previously. Let's just have a look at this one and see what happens. I like playing around with a fine liner pen. It can extenuate. No, is that the word I mean? Not sure what word I mean there. But it can emphasize some of the shapes so that you can make up your mind on what you want to do. There we go. Just put a few little dots in there, quite liking that one. And let's just play around with this one as well. See, I'm working quickly. I'm not thinking about it too much. I'm just seeing what happens. I do like these kind of crosses and the lines. I think that can work really well. And sometimes I'll just put in sort of a darker part within the space, just to sort of see what that might look like. Yeah, that's coming together. And then finally, let's have a bit of a play with this green one. Just pushing that one like that. Again, doing these little sketches, really good to build your confidence in drawing. And all of this is building skills that you can use later. This funny little wiggly bit there. Let me know in the comments what you think, what you're doing. And we haven't had a weather update, have we? We've had some gorgeous weather here. We've also had some rain because the time of recording this, Wimbledon has started. So we nearly always have rain at Wimbledon. Yeah, that's the English summer for you. So what's it doing where you are? What's your weather like? There we go. Now I'm going to probably, at the moment, I think my eye is drawn to this one. And this is the one that I'm going to develop next. So I'm going to be working on this one. I've taken a photograph of it, put it because it's on a previous page, and I'm still going to be working in my sketchbook. So I've just popped it on my iPad there. And I've just made myself a coffee, and I'm very mindful that I'm going to be using paint and brushes. And I have to say that I have quite frequently dunked my paintbrush in my coffee. Sign of a true artist, I think. And very annoying when you kind of think, I was actually really looking forward to that coffee. Anyway, I've put together some of my paints, some warm colours on this one, and then some white and some blue. And I'm going to use my image and reproduce it fairly roughly, actually. I'm going to pop it here. I'm going to put my frame in, and I'm just sort of looking at the shapes and thinking about the things that appealed to me when I was doing this in the previous bit. So I'm putting together these. Now I'm using quite organic lines here. I might change my mind on that and actually put in some lines that are more rigid and straight. So that could be another development. So I'm just sort of putting in that one like that, that one over that way. So you can see it's not an exact copy, because that's not what a development is about. I'm sort of trying out a different way of using the same shape. Now I'm going to go straight in with some colour. I'm not going to use the same colours that I've used there. I'm going to change things around. Now, as I've said previously, if you've watched some of my previous tutorials, if you're going to use yellow at all, use it first. It's a very definite colour, yellow, and it's easily corruptible. So any speck at all of another colour on your brush will show up on yellow. And so if I'm going to use yellow, especially in kind of a block like I'm doing here, I always put it in first. Well, I say always. I usually put it in first. Sometimes I forget because I get a little bit carried away and think, oh, I'm going to go straight in with neon pink. I'm using a very soft brush. Just to put in these blocks of colours, and I'm using them directly. I'm not mixing them at the moment. I'm just seeing what these might look like, and I might add some sort of tone, a tiny bit of black or tints of white, but at the moment I just want to put in these blocks, keeping to this palette. Now I'm painting at the moment standing up. I quite often paint standing up. I feel I have more energy. When I'm doing my more detailed stuff, then I will sit down. Right, I've just sort of mixed a bit of that with the pink. But I do like standing up when I'm working. And when I'm printing, doing printmaking, I always stand. I know it's not possible for everybody to do that. But being comfortable while you're working is actually really, really important. And with my, when I was teaching A-level students, obviously they would be in my class for much of the day. We would have long classes, and every sort of 3/4 of an hour or so, I would get them all to stand up, move about. We'd put some music on, we'd do a bit of a dance. Stretch their arms and their backs, and you need to do that as well. And keeping ourselves healthy while we're playing with paint sounds kind of a bit strange, but it's actually really, really important, especially if we kind of get a bit carried away. I have a tendency to get carried away. And you lose track of time and things like that. And that's when you realise that you haven't actually moved much of your body for a while. And that's not good. It's not healthy. Right, I'm going to mix a little bit of this. I'm just mixing this with my brush. You could use a palette knife, whatever works for you. Quite liking this. This is, obviously we were at the messy stage. Remember, everything that you do will go through some form of a messy stage. And quite often that's when people give up. And I really encourage you to work through your messy stage. Yeah, this is coming on. So I'm putting these colours and shapes in. I'm not worried too much about the edges at the moment. I'm just going to pick up this darker colour. Sort of crimson. It's mixed with a tiny bit of that yellow, that sort of yellow ochre. Putting that in there. Let's pop that line in there. So you can see that it's coming together. It is very, very messy. But it's given me an idea of the sort of things that I could do. Let's just pop with this idea. Let's pop that in there. And there we go. Quite liking that actually. Pick up a little bit more of that yellow in there. So filling in all the spaces. I'm going to leave that to dry and then I'm going to tidy it up a bit. And while I'm leaving it to dry, I'm going to finish my coffee. Well, I had a very nice cup of coffee. And then I thought I'm going to reproduce this in blue. So I did that. I put a few marks on it. This one is completely clean now. Yeah, it's pretty messy. And I'm going to go over it with my acrylic pen. You could use a fine liner pen just to put some more marks, do a bit of outline, some contour lines, that kind of thing. And just sort of having a play as always. Putting these marks in before I go on to working on directly onto the canvas. So that will be the next step. Now you could be working on your own canvas, you could be doing some more developing of ideas, that kind of thing. Oh, there we go. Yeah, let me know what we're doing. Share some of your thoughts. If you haven't joined the Facebook group yet and it's something that you'd like to do, I'd really recommend it because it's so friendly and we can share our ideas, our thoughts. I answer questions, that's that sort of thing, which is really nice. It's a lovely community. Very, very grateful to people who contribute regularly. Thank you for that. Let me just do that. And I'm putting together some downloadable worksheets and things like that, which I will link in the description if that's something that you think you might like. And I've got some freebies as well. You could take a look at those. This is coming together. Let's just do a bit of a rough border around that. let me just, I still like this idea that it's still slightly organic, and so I do like that. So I know I was thinking about perhaps doing some more angular lines, but I think I'm not going to do that, not for this one. But this sort of idea I will use for maybe 2 or 3 paintings, and they will become a series. I've got a couple of exhibitions this summer, and one very large painting that I've been working on for a while, so I will show you that in another video. And when I am working towards an exhibition or a show, my mind gets very, very focused. But also I'll be looking at what I'm going to be doing next year, and that kind of thing. I mean, if you're at the stage where you're thinking that you would like to do a show, you'd like to put together an exhibition, and you don't really know where to start, if you think that that's a tutorial that you would like, let me know. So I'm very happy to do that. I do quite a bit of coaching with people who think that they want to move on to the next stage of putting together an exhibition, and that's lovely. I love seeing my students developing their work and doing some very exciting stuff. But yeah, so this is coming on quite liking it, quite liking the little scribbly bits, and I might put some stencils. If you didn't see my stencil tutorial and you'd like to watch that, I've lots and lots of ways of using a stencil in your work. This is coming along and I quite like it. Now I'm going to play around with this one a little bit more, but what I want to do is to show you can turn things round, turn it upside down, and something else might pop into your head. Now I'm going to work on a canvas. Now this is a second-hand canvas. I bought it from a charity shop. It had a photographic image on it, and I thought, I could show you what I do with these, because again, when we're playing with ideas and we're not quite sure what we're going to do, you don't want to spend a fortune on a new canvas. And these are really well made, and it's got a lovely surface, and it just needs to be prepared and we're ready to go. I'm using gesso. You could use white acrylic, although that would be a little bit more expensive in the long run, or you could use white emulsion paint. I'm not sure if that's called something else in other countries. I might have to have a look that up, but in England it's called emulsion paint, stuff you put on the wall, and that will work really well. So I'm just putting this as a bit of a lump there, just move that one out of the way. This is actually watered down a little bit, and I'm doing this quite roughly, which is fine because it will dry smooth, and then I might just rub it down, usually just rub it down with a little bit of sandpaper, and then it will be ready to go. But I thought I wanted to show you it before I started to actually paint onto it. So that's it, using a bit of gesso on an old canvas. So my canvas is prepared, and so now I'm just going to mark out where the basic shapes are. I'm going straight in with paint so that you can see what I'm doing. You could use pencil, bit of chalk, something like that, if you want to. Just put this down this way. I will be sort of turning my canvas around so that you can see what I'm doing. over there. I'm just sort of marking it out quite loosely. So that bit over here. Again, it's sort of based on the ideas that I had before. I sort of perhaps added a few other lines and ideas, but it's mainly the orange pattern that I did earlier, because I did like that one. Okay, so I'm going to work on this bit in the middle, and because I want to use yellow, I'm going to be putting this one, and this is a very vibrant fluorescent yellow, and I will need to do a few layers of this. So I've put a little bit of water in there for the first layer, and you can see that that's quite thin, but that's okay. And then I'm also going to put, just going to turn the canvas around, some yellow down in this area. So I'm getting my background in after sort of drafting out the rough shape of where things are. That won't take long to dry at all. And okay, now I'm going to go into pink. Just a little bit of yellow on the brush, because I wanted to kind of bring some tones and that kind of thing. I don't want just to have block colours in my final piece. See that bit there? And this bit we're going to have as the orange, again with sort of like hints of pink. Sort of putting down this first layer. Again, I'm standing up while I'm doing this, just get a bit of energy. Like that. There we go. Doesn't matter if it's a bit uneven at this point. And I'm going to go back into the pink. So we get this curve around here. Like that. I really enjoy, as I've said before, actually putting paint onto paper or paint onto canvas. I like the physical application, whether it's using acrylic paint like this, or oil paints, or watercolours, or poster paints, or gouache. I just like the feel of paint. It just makes me very, very happy. Let's just do this bit down here. There we go. Like that. So I'm just putting in these blocks of colours with some tones, but not much at this stage. I'll just put a little bit in. I want to get the whole canvas covered quite quickly. Acrylic paint dries fast unless you are putting another medium in with it, which I may well do. I quite often will use a gel medium, and for a whole variety of different reasons actually. Some is to thin the paint out, but not with water. It gives a different sort of texture. which can be quite nice. And there are some mediums that you can buy that actually have, you know, full-on texture. I don't tend to use them that much, but I have got some of them, and they're quite fun. Just putting that one in there. Okay, now this one I wanted sort of a pinky orange. Just move some things around so you can see that. There we go. So it still has that kind of organic feel to it, which I do like, and which I wanted, because that was the whole point of being inspired. When we have our starting point, it's quite good to sort of refer back to it every now and again, even if you've moved away from your original source, which we have. We have quite substantially on this one. It's just quite liking mixing some tone actually on the canvas. See what that looks like. Yep, quite liking that. And let's move this way. Like that. So it's coming together. So to turn the canvas round so you can see what's happening. Just sort of mixing some of the bright yellow with the orange. So I think that can look good. Let's just put a bit down there. Putting that there. Using the same brush throughout. I like these sort of flat brushes. You can get quite sharp edges with them, but I do use all sorts of brushes. There we go. Sort of turning that around like that. So you can get that quite defined line, which works well. There. Yeah, so it's all beautifully messy, of course. Doing these last few bits here. And sort of quite loose brush strokes. If you're not quite ready to go onto a canvas, or you haven't got one ready, then you could do this on cartridge paper, wallpaper lining paper. That would work well if you just want to practice your painting skills. Let's go into here. Now I haven't added any white onto this yet. I'm going to do that next. But I just wanted to get my base colours down so that I don't have any white spaces left. Ooh. And then I've just got this last bit here, which just pop in a bit of yellow there. So that's, let's just turn it around that way you can see the whole thing. Most of the white is covered up. I'm going to leave some of it to dry. I'm going to work on some of the other bits and I'll show you what happens next. So I've added a bit more paint and I've left it to dry, and I'm now going to put some marks on it using a Sharpie pen and an acrylic pen. We're just going to see where this goes. I'm referring back to my sketchbook. Oh, here we go. This one here. So I'll be taking ideas from that, but I'll also be thinking about what else I could do. So I'm going to start off in this little bit here. Let's just adjust that like that. And I'm just going to start by putting a line round here. I'm going to be breaking up some of these lines later using a stencil. I'm just going to put those over there. If you can do one continuous line when you're doing these sorts of outlines, that can work really well. But if you can't, then just stop and then see if you can let it flow again. Just going to do that. So these shapes have now become, see, I've had to stop there because I didn't give myself enough room. Just join it back up. These shapes have become very abstract in their own right, and I'm going to be using these to create some more interesting patterns. So I'm aware that the light's not great actually. It's all got a little bit cloudy outside, so I've had to put studio lights on. Oh, the joys of the English summer. Let's just put that one round there, like that. Just moving that bit there. Take that line around here, and you can see that it's starting to get a little bit defined. I'm just going to turn the canvas around like that. Let's move it there. And I quite liked these as separate pieces. I'm just going to do that one here, and then this one. So these aren't joining up, not yet anyway. Let's just put that one like that. And this one, I'm just going to turn that canvas round this way. It's going to be easier for me to do it. Let me just that. Like that. I wanted to have that sort of organic feel to this piece as a reference to the flowers. I'm just going to pop those there because I think that would look quite quirky. I'm going to turn it around again. Let's just put that there. So I'm hoping you're getting lots of ideas now of the things that you would like to do, that you'd like to explore with this kind of idea. using your own starting point. Oh, I've run out of ink. I'm now going to add some sort of detailing. I'm going to start on this bit here, and I'm just going to put in some lines, breaking up that space there, and I'll just put in a few little circles here, different marks. You know, thinking about what I've done before, thinking what I like, what makes me happy, those sorts of things. And one of the things I liked on this was the marks, but looking at this, I'm going to do another coat of yellow on top of that one because I'm not quite happy with that surface just yet. These lines I'm going to come out like this, quite liking those. And then these ones, and getting that feel of a curve coming round, building those ones up. And then start to put some lines down on this pink bit. Just move that across. Just sort of having a bit of fun with this, really, thinking about some of the sketches that I've done, picking up on some of the patterns that I've created in my sketchbook, sort of referencing back to those and the sort of effects that you can get. Just like filling in that space there. And then I've got this corner here, and I'm going to just turn that round like that, because I had an idea of what I could do here. And again, it's this sort of idea of a contour. This is like, this line's going to go back on itself, and it's almost like the bark of a tree, but it also could be like ripples in the water. Again, it's these abstract shapes we as human beings just can't help but try and do an interpretation. It's like seeing shapes in the sky, the clouds, isn't it? Kind of making your own interpretation. And that's what will happen with these pieces. We've done that bit there now. And then I've got these three lines here, and I'm just going to go straight in with the... Sometimes you have to be brave. We have to just sort of break up the space just a little bit. And this one, again, sort of picking up on some of the ideas that I've done before. Just putting in some lines, seeing where they might go. Putting in sort of shapes and circles that could be anything or nothing. Could be just nothing. Now, I did want to look at this bit at the bottom, because I wanted to put in kind of this line here, so kind of almost like a horizon line. Again, I'm creating a narrative here, but I quite like that idea. Where I am in West Dorset. I can look out of my studio window to the rolling hills. It's really beautiful, and I can see these lovely shapes. So I thought I would put some of those in. Well, that could be fun. And here, I think I'm going to put some more of these, sort of breaking up the space. Oh, give that a bit of a shake. Like that. So I've added a few more bits and pieces. I've put some white marks on. I put a few more of the black marker, and I redid that there. I'm just going to break up again some of the space using using a stencil. This kind of stencil that I use a lot, actually. I'm just going to just put a bit just on the corner here. Just using a sponge with a little bit of white. Lift that up there. I just wanted to kind of break up that space a little bit. Just going to do a little bit here. Getting it quite dry. A little bit here. The bottom there. It just breaks up the space a little bit. Breaks up the texture. Which I quite, well, I do like. I really like it, actually. I love that kind of, just adding something a bit different to that edge, going over it a bit, so it sort of fades it out. You could use all sorts of stuff if you've got a stencil that you like, perhaps some letters. You know, that kind of effect can be really, really good. Just put that a little bit on there. And on these spaces that I haven't put any pattern, just tiny little hints of the stencil. So using a bit of white, just putting it over the top like that. It's just kind of adds little touches to it, and I can kind of brush out some of them and see where that might go. Just add a little bit more to that there on that edge there, because I like that sort of effect. Right, now I'm going to work on this bit in the middle. So I'm going to use my fine liner pen. This is an acrylic marker. You could use a Sharpie pen, anything like that. And I'm just going to put in some shapes, some lines, a bit of contours, but sort of breaking up some of the shape. Just adding a bit of texture. Again, it kind of comes back, it's still a little bit organic. There's still an organic feel about this. I'm just sort of adding a few little marks on this, like that. And I'm now going to take my white marker and I'm going to break up some of that. like that. Right, let me just put that away. And I'm just going to do a bit more on top of that. Kind of bringing in, again, this sort of idea of the petal. So I'm going to put it in with just a black marker pen at the minute. Just that one there. Ooh. And that one there. So I'm going to leave those to dry, and then I'm going to do some marks on top of them. So I think I'll do another one there. There we go. So don't be afraid of just working on top of what you've already done and changing your mind a little bit and developing it as you go, because sometimes you can look at something for a while and then think, no, I think I might change that just a little bit. Just going to put a little bit of white on that edge around there. I'm just going to leave that bit to dry and to look at the whole thing. I'm just going to turn it round that way. Again, looking at it from a different angle, you can see where balance is, where some work needs to happen. Down here, not very happy with that down there. So let's just pop that like that. And I'm going to do some work on that bit. So looking at some of my images from the beginning, I kind of liked this idea of like the seeds in the pod, so I thought this one could be a bit like that. And I've got this textured bit as well as the background, and I'm liking this effect. I think this works well. And if I do something like this, sort of pink on gold, I like to put it somewhere else in the painting. So I'm just going to do it here as well. It's just like a little echo. Popping that one in there. Let's just turn it round. And now I just want to do a bit more on this. The black's not quite dry yet, so I'm going to leave that for a little bit, but I'm going to put in some of these pink circles on here like this. Again, this is kind of just a little nod to the seed pods that I was looking at. I quite like those. And the stencils were kind of giving that kind of effect as well. I'll just put those like that. I'm going to leave that one to dry, put a little bit of stencil over the top, just sort of break that a little bit. But I think we are nearly done. So I have finished this piece. I will varnish it or put some gel medium over the top, and I will show you that finished piece. And I do sign my work, but I like to sign it very, very subtly. I don't want my signature to be overpowering. So I'm just going to put it down here like that. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you've found a way to develop some of your own art and you've got some more ideas that you want to try out as well. If you want to like and subscribe, that would be really nice. And thank you for sharing as well. That has really helped me to grow the channel and enabled me to put out a little bit more content. And I'm going to be doing some new stuff over the next few months as well, so watch out for that. So, if you want to learn more, you could look at this one or this one, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.